Get ready to show up with Khoolaid and Sarah. It's the Show Up Show, baby.
Let's go.
Haven't had it since the 80s.
All right, here we go, baby. It's the Show Up Show. Your homegirl Khoolaid.
And Sarah.
Who we got?
And I'm just happy to show up.
I
Lord
know.
have mercy.
Damn it.
Hello,
Let's
ladies.
Talk about it, Damizza.
What?
I mean, let's just talk about the show up, big dog.
What? I'm showing up.
Let's talk about
You are showing up.
You are showing up.
I am here.
I mean, it was like, you know me, I like to inspire and talk about things, but sometimes we don't follow our own words.
Yeah.
And all we could do at that time was show up.
Yeah.
All right.
And you definitely helped me show up.
And you definitely helped me show up, sir. So for the not knowers, do we go into a little bit of your history, who you are? I know they've seen you fucking everywhere.
Sure, go ahead, cool.
Right, he's everywhere now.
You know more about me than I do.
I'm getting that. You know he's everywhere when I'm getting messages about, do you know this guy Damizza?
Yeah.
I may know him. What do you want?
You know,
And
she
who
had
are you?
somebody that wanted her to connect with you.
Yeah.
Too.
I'm having
I-
fun.
I still am in kind of this disbelief thing about it because, like I've always said, when I hit the red button, I don't know what I'm going to say. I just say it. I don't think anybody's listening. I look at the analytics. I'm like, yeah, right. You know, I still go on about my day. You know, it recently, you know, that was the very first time where like I went out and got recognized, you know, so
Oh,
I
what was
was
that
at
like?
the airport and it was like, oh, that's Damizza. And I was like, oh, you know what I mean? It was kind of, I mean, it was cool.
Yeah.
But I'm still in kind of that, like, wow, I can't believe I'm back. You know
Yeah.
what I mean, it's kind of
Back and in full, like, I feel like we're better than ever.
I was
Like,
going to say
yeah.
back in 2.0 version.
Yeah.
Of new and
and this is the
improved.
first time I've been like the public face of it. You know what I mean? So
Oh.
I've always been kind of the behind the scenes guy. Yeah, I played a little bit, but I never was the face of any of the brands that I backed.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was also because everything was so controlled at the time that the minute you try and be the face of it, you'd have critics and you'd have haters, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden, Damizza's
You
gonna be
mean
on
when
the
I
record.
started rapping back
Yes.
in the day?
Yes, which now cracks me up because everybody's like, Damizza's voice, Damizza's songs were so fun, and like we have people and friends that are doing big time production right now, trying to get you to rap again, and I think that's everything.
You know,
I
but
Are
love
you going
it.
to do it? Are you gonna
Speaking
do
of
it?
trauma,
He doesn't.
you know,
He doesn't have a choice.
like,
Okay.
But go ahead.
Speaking of like no, but that's kind of a not I wouldn't say a trigger, but it's kind of a weird thing because for so long I took so much backlash for producing or rapping or any of that because when I started producing they said, oh, you can't be a producer. I mean, you have to create this whole other persona to hide the fact that you're producing. I mean, that's how the name
Well, and for
Damizza
the people
came
that don't
about.
understand that might not be as musically thrown. They didn't want him to produce because he was in radio and he had direct influence over programming of how many radio stations at that time when we were
Gosh, we had a Power 106, Hot 97, and 32 stations in the middle.
okay. And for
So-
people who don't know, they look at Damizza and I's relationship and they think Damizza and Khoolaid are fucking or Damizza and Khoolaid are together.
And you got the bomb, baby.
Yeah, don't
No, I'm
I?
just
Don't
kidding.
How,
I?
wait, how did we just take that jump?
'Cause
I
I'm-
was writing.
I'm telling- I'm
This
telling,
is what you're dealing with.
She always brings it back to that.
I'm telling the
Oh,
dynamics.
It's the
of
six
our
siblings,
relationship.
trust me.
Yes.
Clearly.
I'm telling the dynamics of our relationship
Ooh,
so
that
people
would be a
understand.
dope name
What?
for a new little company or
Which
something.
one? What do we
What?
call it?
Six siblings.
Six siblings. Okay.
Sex siblings.
Oh, it's cute.
Sorry, go ahead.
Did you say six or sex?
What?
Did you say six or sex siblings?
I'm a virgin.
Okay. So
Perfect.
let's talk about I want to talk about
Yeah.
who he is, who this man is to me originally.
Got it.
So this man was like the myth, the legend. When I got my gig at Power 106, Damizza was my fucking boss.
Oh.
Yeah, like he was running the show.
And now this power shift.
I mean, clearly, how the tides
Yeah.
have turned.
Now she's
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah, a little bit.
Here I
a little bit. But the crazy thing was when we were working together, and I just came to this revelation the other night, and he's like, "Really? Are you just figuring that out, stupid?" Because I called him, and I'm like, "Oh my God, Dame, we're doing the same thing we did together in early 2000. I'm in the streets building all the artists with the, and all the relationships.
Yeah.
While you're in the back figuring the business out. And
Yeah.
I love this. We're back to where we were. And
Yeah.
yeah, no shit.
Actually reverse that. Like,
Yeah.
No, I mean I
Yeah.
mean you've always been so good at showing up. I mean you've
Mhm.
always been the person, the face, the stage, but that's kind of what I meant is I've never been the face. I've
Right.
always
Yeah.
been the Wizard of Oz in the back
Behind the
just
scenes.
kind of manipulating the wind and
Yeah.
air traffic controlling and doing all
Yeah.
of that kind of stuff while you go out and figure out what is the next thing and then say to me like, "Hey, I got this thing called reggaeton, or I got this thing called Latin rap, or I got this show idea, or something like that." And then I would go, all right, let me find a way to make this happen.
Well, not only would
Yeah.
you go
Because it
out,
would come through the streets. But that's what I'm saying is you were a perfect conduit as a communication device to what's happening in real time in the streets.
And that bridge between what's happening in the streets and then being able to bring it into a business or a radio
Right.
station or a label or whatever that other thing is, you're this beautiful bridge between the two.
well, what I always loved about him too is, it got hard. Like a lot of people were critiquing what I was doing and didn't want to
Sure.
see us succeed or win with that. And it was like I knew it would win in my heart because it was the real stuff going on within the community. I wasn't like everybody else with their own agendas. I don't want to say everybody, like other people with their own agendas when they go in and they try and create something that's not there, that's not authentic. Dame and I both have always just found what was jumping in the streets, whether it's something we liked or didn't like or whatever, however we felt about it, we would see the movement and the people and we would be in support of helping them develop and follow those dreams. And you helped me in those hallways
Aw,
forever and ever, man.
baby.
And I'm
But see,
Yeah.
that's wrong. That's what's wrong with corporate America
Hmm.
today is they don't have any connection to reality. They think social media is reality.
Right.
Well, social media is 90% bullshit. Let's
yeah,
just be real about it.
99%
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, and a lot of it is
Yes.
positioning and to make us think a certain way so that we do what they need to do or
Yeah.
what they need us to do, consume. You know what I mean? So, a lot of what's happening on social media is being pushed to us through algorithms so that we consume products.
Right.
It's just what it is.
Did you ever think you would be a social media influencer?
I never thought of myself as an influencer, period. But,
Hmm.
we were joking right before we came on, and I said, I think I corrupted society at the end of the 90s and early 2000s, like with Eminem or, playing Ain't No Fun and Morning
Over and
Drive.
over. Hell yeah.
But,
No.
I mean,
Everybody learned to skeet skeet on their face. I mean,
yeah,
it's like all types of shit you
Thanks,
promoted out
Dame.
there. Yeah. You
yeah,
had us
but,
all skeet skeeting in the streets.
I never,
all skeet skeet on damn.
I this week, shout out to Michelle S. I was at Syracuse
That
University.
was so dope.
And we're sitting there
Yeah.
talking about it, and it kind of finally hit me like, wow, I corrupted every single one of these motherfuckers' parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, bringing like an Eminem to the mainstream through top 40 radio, like, you know what I mean? That's,
Yeah.
what he was saying at the time and some of those things. Now I kind of sit back and go,
Right. Right.
Well, people also don't understand the magnitude because everything's consumed so differently. So
Yeah.
it's like I'm sure some people will think like, oh, Damizza, he's arrogant. He thinks he did all this or he did all that. But the reality is like, yo, you did do that because that was the only way we could listen to music. That was the only way we could get our new music was from the radio. And
Well,
go
and,
ahead.
and people, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
I mean, people look at it as the end result.
Yeah.
They see Jay-Z now.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Right.
I saw Jay-Z as a struggling artist.
Yep.
Jay-Z was Rowdy
Who
Rax
couldn't
or
get
Lefty
play.
Gunplay right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Couldn't get play in New
who
York.
can't get
Couldn't
play,
get right.
it's hard for them to get played on the radio.
Yeah.
Where me, I was like, hell yeah, that's what's happening in the street. Let's play this because radio to me would reflect our audience. That's what it needs to do. It's a mirror. You know what I mean? Social media isn't a mirror. There's a push and a
It's a facade. It's bullshit.
yeah,
It's what I
it's-
want you to see. It's the
you know,
best.
where we didn't have, we were, when we started Cools, I mean, we were doing it for the love of hip hop. We weren't owned by corporate America. It was a mom and pop shop,
Yeah.
basically, that let us run wild
Yeah.
because we were making money for the company. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it
We weren't one of
now,
the bigger radio power wasn't owned by one of the bigger conglomerates.
well, and now these conglomerates, they want it to make money on their terms. So
Right.
they know where it's coming from and they can plan their quarters and they can do that. They can't live in the moment. We can live in the moment and
Mhm.
create something new that later on down the line will become profitable for someone else. But the corporations can't see the incubation anymore because they're so far removed from the street.
Hmm.
You said something really dope just now, and I completely forgot what it was, like the way you said it, but I loved it where you were talking about, just basically finding the shit that was going on in the streets and putting it on the radio. I think with social media, I mean, you started making me go through my head of all the social media influencers that I know that I like that I'm watching or all the artists. It's the ones that are actually doing that, implementing what's really happening in the world and not
But you
trying
don't
to
know
create
which
this.
ones are and aren't. You know what
Right.
I mean? A lot of them have been bought by these companies. They have bought equity in it. Spotify, for instance, which is a huge influencer if you stop and think about it. It's a corporate influencer, but 50% of the streams are bullshit. You know what I mean? But it's like, recently or a couple years ago, I was on my iPhone and I was going through my iTunes, and all of a sudden I see this U2 album that I didn't buy, I
Hmm.
didn't purchase, but it's in my iTunes. And I'm like, how the hell did this get here? You know what I mean? Apple did a deal with U2 through Jimmy Iovine, and it magically showed up. It was pushed into my phone without my express consent. And then I started thinking about it. But wait a minute, that terms of service is worse than a record contract. And
Hmm.
some of the things that we have done as a society, just because it's normalized, we've given iPhone and Apple our fingerprints, our facial recognition, our voice,
Oh, we've sold our souls.
I mean, it is literally crazy if you stop and think about the terms of service
Yeah.
on most of these things. They can, if you look at your phone, it's a trip, and not to go down the rabbit hole, as I always say,
Yeah.
but look at your phone and how much data goes up to the cloud from your phone every day. I mean, they literally track every single thing that you click on, and that goes back up to Apple. It's packaged and sold as data to advertising companies. I mean, we have literally done what I just said, give
Right.
them
The
our
blueprint to everything.
biometrics. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
21 and Me and all of these other
Mhm.
things. We've given them
Yeah.
the DNA.
Everything.
Everything.
I mean,
It's gone. It's all
it's,
there.
I
Yeah.
mean, surveillance, it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay,
And
so Mad
we live in
Rapper.
a Chinese democracy.
Yeah, Mad Rapper,
Sorry.
conspiracy theory.
I know.
I can call you all these things in the book, but what I love about you is that like the moment I really like get to soak in what you're pushing for me and I'm like, "Oh my god, Dame's right. We can really do this. We can." I mean, you really do
What is
make
a
people
conspiracy,
feel
though? I mean, every conspiracy that the words conspiracy theory was
Mm.
coined by the CIA to spin narratives. I mean, it's in the Freedom of Information Act. They created it in I think it was not Operation Paperclip or Mongoose, one of those operations where propaganda was a business for them. You know what I mean? Like that's what they did. I mean, so it's conspiracy, which is weirder, the fact that it's a conspiracy or it could actually happen. What is weirder?
Can you help
Is it
me
would it be weirder to think that we actually landed on the moon or that we taped it in a soundstage?
Can you help me
You know?
understand how and why all this information comes into your brain and how you sort it all? And because like I love you, I'm probably your biggest fan, and you know me, I will catch you like you can throw bombs left and right. Oh, this conspiracy, or oh that, or oh we're starting a union, we're creating a whole new platform, and I'm gonna be here. Like I'm like this behind you because I'm not gonna let you fall because I know the heart, the soul, and who you are. How daily, with the way your brain operates so fast, do you manage coming up with
I,
all the ideas and soaking in all the information you soak in?
I have no idea. I just let it go.
Hmm.
I live in the moment. Like, you know me. I
Yeah.
live in the
You live in the
moment,
moment.
and sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I make a mistake, I learn from it, I keep pushing, but that's just what life is about.
Has
So,
it always been that way for you?
oh yeah.
Always.
You know,
You've
I
always lived this way.
having the ADHD
Yeah.
and whatever else I have,
Mhm.
dyslexia and
Mhm.
all of this stuff. I mean, they've always said it was an issue. When I was 5 years old, they tried to put me on Ritalin and say, you're not normal.
Right.
This, that, and the other. You're a dreamer. You're never going to amount to anything. Da da da. This, but I was running radio stations by the time I was 17, and
Yeah.
that's just because I don't adjust to anyone's narrative.
You don't conform to
I
the
don't
standards.
conform
Yeah.
to society rules.
Right.
I have a certain core belief of you should be a good guy and you
Mhm.
should always deal in the moment like you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that comes back and sometimes I don't make the right decision. But
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know how to sort it.
let's talk about that early story a little bit, because I know you've went over this, so we'll talk. But I just want to touch on it a little because
Go ahead.
it was I gave you to True Hustle first because I
Yeah.
wanted them to bring out that real story because I kind of felt like me sitting with you telling your
It's
story or
cheating.
how, yeah,
Mm.
it really is. And then also it's just different because I love you so stinking much. And I'm your biggest fan girl. It
And
just
vice versa.
it is what it is. But I mean reality is Pops was on motorcycles and was hardcore
Yeah.
and you were left with grandma. Can you break it down a little bit, the early history of
Well, I mean, it was a my parents were 15 and 16. They
Mm.
were in high school. That's where they met. They lived a block away. And, I mean, my my mom got pregnant with my older brother, who's like a year and 20 days older than I am.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, so it was back to back. And the grandparents would blame each other. The kids would just like, one was a biker, one was on drugs. It just was what it was. So I got dropped off on grandma's doorstep when I was a year old. And, you know, uh, from that moment, she said, "This child is mine."
but let's make that clear. Not only did you get dropped off, you got left on grandma's doorstep in the cold.
Well, I got left on the doorstep. They rang the doorbell and took off, but grandma wasn't home and it was cold. So
Mm.
I got pneumonia and I was malnutrition. My diaper was raw. Grandma took me to the emergency room and I was, pretty close to not being here. You know what I mean? Like, so the fact that we had that bond, I mean, just was what it was. And as I grew up, about 7 years old, I said, "You take care of me now, I'll take care of you then." I mean, that's how far advanced my head was. You know what I mean? But you also have to remember, I have a very weird family. I mean, my grandfather was in the Navy, and then was in the OSS, and then was in the first class of the CIA, employee like number 27. So he was always this like rocket scientist of a genius, built
Yeah.
the radio systems and the radio arrays in Cyprus, and
Which is
they
crazy.
adopt my mother just out of the blue and move to California and retire from the CIA. It's like, it's a weird family dynamic, but everybody was so smart in my family. My aunt one time said, "The thing about our family is we're not short on brains."
Mm.
You know what I mean? But
Mm.
it just I was never grandma never told me I couldn't do something,
Yeah.
and would always help me find out a way to do it. So my brain just doesn't accept no or process no if there's something else. And grandpa always said he was a radio guy. So he always said that we're walking radio stations.
Mm.
We have microphones and we have speakers and we receive frequencies. The brain is electricity in a biomechanical suit. We're acclimated to this environment, and
Yeah.
that makes more sense to me than a conspiracy theories of we're an alien.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but I mean, what else could we possibly be? We're just maroon on this island.
Well,
you know?
yeah. Well, grandma, and then also grandma really pushed in you just how to love everybody around you and be
Mm.
open to different people at a time when not everybody was open to people.
No, but Graham, it all made sense when we moved back to Louisiana,
Mm.
because when we pulled into the gate and the house that we got for her, she said, "Stop," in the dirt road driveway. And I said, "Mom, it's a dirt road." Like, she's like, "Get my wheelchair." And I'm like, "Okay." And Bams, who went with us, drove the car up to the house, and here we are sitting on this dirt road. And she looks over at me and she's crying. And I'm like, "Mom, what's wrong?" And she goes, "No, it's right." And I said, "What?"
Wow.
She goes, "When I left here, women couldn't own land. We were property."
Yeah.
Wow.
And I went, "Okay, wait a minute. I just got everything she ever did." Granny was a pilot. Granny was the first female in the Western Hemisphere to own an automotive shop. When they told her, like, her husband
Wow.
was widowed, and she
Yeah.
inherited the automotive shop.
Yeah.
And the local IGO, independent garage owners, didn't do anything to hurt her, but they sure as hell wouldn't do anything to help
Help
her.
her. Yeah.
And they would say, "This is a man's business. You need to get out." Well, a year later, they voted her president of the IGO because she not only turned that garage around, but was turning them around.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and you know, and I think that's also why we get along so well too, is
Mm.
because you do remind me a lot of her
Hmm.
and your drive and your perseverance and your not accepting of barrier. You know what I mean? So I think that's why we
Love that.
always got along.
I
You know,
love
is
that.
I recognize that without recognizing it. It's just instinct and human nature.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think we always got along because of your loyalty. And, I always felt safe with you. And I love the way you always advocated for people who deserved it, that didn't have a voice, and that you
Mm.
were always connected to
'Cause I
people.
didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I always felt like little orphan Annie. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like nobody wanted me, grandma did, but I always felt like I was an explorer. I was always exploring. I was always trying to, find out something new and, found that wonderment. And, I find that in people. That's what I love about people is
Yeah.
learning and understanding them and learning from their experience and going, wow, okay, what can I take from that? And that's just something I really enjoy.
Which is beautiful because some people could have had your experience, right? And had that sense of not belonging or not being wanted or all of the core things that happen, I
Or
think.
be bitter.
That's what I was going to say,
Yeah.
or be bitter or choose to be hardened to the world. But what it did for you was it made your heart open
Well,
to
and I
everybody and
can't
to
say that I
people.
didn't go through that phase.
Sure, but
You know,
but the essence of who you are is what I'm
Yeah.
talking
I mean,
about.
I definitely went through the, drunk Superman flicking peanuts at the bar.
Okay. And I
phase.
want
Yeah.
to talk. I want to talk about that phase because I
Wait,
feel
the
like
drunk. Say that one more
no,
time.
Did you ever see the first Superman?
Yeah,
The
he's
first
such
Superman movie?
analogies. You probably won't know what it is, but
Okay.
he's got these weird analogies in his brain that he expects everybody to know. Does anybody in this room know about the Superman and the peanuts?
Well,
Yeah,
in the
Drunk
very
Superman. Okay,
first
then tell us.
Superman, the Christopher Reeves
he notices
Superman.
every
The
detail.
There
real
was
Superman.
a phase where every superhero if in the line goes bad at some point.
Of course.
Gets why don't they love me? What
Right,
I'm
right.
just trying to help everybody,
Right.
and here they're
trauma
saying
comes
this.
out.
Yeah, the trauma comes out.
Yeah.
So there was in the very first Christopher Reeves Superman, there was a point where he gives up. He gives up his powers, but right before he does it, he's sitting at a bar in some rural town flicking peanuts at the bar. But when he's flicking the peanuts, he's breaking every bottle and breaking every mirror. And, it's Superman flick, you know what I
Right,
mean?
Flicking
Right.
peanuts.
But he doesn't know his own power and he doesn't realize that he could hurt people by doing that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But it just,
Well, let's talk about
yeah.
that part. Let's talk about that moment part for you, because sometimes I hate when I'd rather get in front of it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your addiction
let's talk about it.
and you overcoming it.
I mean, you never overcome it.
Hmm.
I mean, it's
live
always
with it.
there. Every time, it's an easier struggle than it has been. You know what I mean? Like now with just coping and triggers and things like that. The first thing that would jump into my mind is, oh, let's go get fucked up.
Hmm.
Like, let's just numb this. There's an easy way to do this. Let's just go pop a couple pills and say fuck it.
Not feel it.
And it's just that's all bad. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just so blessed, and I don't know why. This universe has always kind of used me as a tool. Here's another analogy. I've always felt like, do you guys see Men in Black?
Mhm.
There's this one part where his face opens up and there's a little green alien sitting there,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
yeah.
controlling everything and watching everything on the screens, but there's all this stuff happening, and that's the way I feel a lot of times is I'm just a little alien watching everything happen, but I literally have no control over the things that are happening. The universe uses me for certain things, tells me what to do. When I do it, I don't even know I'm doing it. And then years later, I see something and go, oh,
Mhm.
that's what that was.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so like
Well-
with the addiction thing, I think I don't know how to put it. It was like, okay, you need to sit there and be numb for a second. This is the only way that we can preoccupy you.
When did
Like,
that start?
Oh God.
To where it was a problem?
I mean, it started a little bit after I retired, and it sat in that grandma was human and getting sicker, and I was going into that dark time of watching her slowly die.
Mm.
And my dad was a really hardcore alcoholic, old biker guy, straight vodka, and I thought it would be a great competition to drink him under the table.
Mm.
So as weeks of this Friday night drinking would turn into Saturday night, would turn into Monday night, would turn into Tuesday, and trying to relate to my father,
Right.
it just started to turn into this thing I couldn't stop. And, with him being more abusive and with grandma going deteriorating and me not having the stimulation of the work and more of dealing with healthcare and grandma's day to day and really just kind of becoming a bodyguard, then an assistant, then a caregiver,
Right.
it started to turn into other things. Now that being said, when I was 16 years old, I was given my first Vicodin.
Mm.
I have a hereditary migraine headaches. I've learned to deal with them a lot better now. But when I was 16, they gave me that first Vicodin, and I thought, oh shoot, I'll just pop this Vicodin and go to school. I'll be straight. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So by the time I was 30, that turned into fentanyl. Well, fentanyl turned into an overdose. You know what I'm saying? Like it was
At 30.
30 something.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So when that happened and I saw how it affected the people around me and that I almost died or did or whatever the hell happened, um, it, that's when it clicked. I need to start fixing this.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like when my little brother said to me, now you're starting to scare me. You know what I mean? Like this isn't recreational, bro. Like you've got a problem.
Yeah.
Um, I did the subsequent stint in Betty Ford. I did the whole, I mean, tried everything, but it just, I don't know, man. When we got to Louisiana and it was a dry town for one, you had to drive 15 to 30 minutes to even get a six pack. There was no drug dealers in the town really that I knew of. I didn't know anybody and I wasn't going to go poking around for it.
Yeah.
It just naturally became. And then one time, Bam said something to me that really stuck with me. He goes, dude, if you're fucked up and grandma falls in the middle of nowhere, and it
Mm.
takes 30 minutes for an ambulance to get there and then 30 minutes to get to the hospital, wouldn't it be better if you weren't fucked up and just drove her?
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like,
Do you think maybe your grandma moved you guys there because she knew? Like she said, do you think she moved you there to seclude you because she wasn't strong enough to help you?
I don't, I don't know because, one time grandma said something to me kind of interesting that, I, and I don't want this to come off wrong, but grandma loved me so much.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? That she said, like, I don't care what you do as long as you're happy.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're happy doing dope, then do dope. You know what I mean? And I don't mean it like that,
Hmm.
but I don't think that she had it in her to ever say, don't do something,
Right.
unless she really saw it. But I don't think she really saw it. You know what I mean? Like,
Or maybe she did.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, what kills me is when you left the radio station. I remember, like, I was devastated. It was like overnight. Like here, like you were my dog. I mean, all those parking lot outings at the DoubleTree after Powerhouse and
Yeah.
being with all the homies, being active in the parking lot. I mean, it was good times. And you were gone all of a sudden. I remember hearing all the things that oh, it's this or everybody tried to make an excuse for
Right.
it. When you walked out of that door, I know grandma fell. I know you wanted to take care of grandma, but what was the real feeling? I mean,
Well, I was also fed up.
Hmm.
I mean, there was a lot of contributing factors. I mean, like I said, when we started this, it was for the love of hip hop. We built this, and when
Mm.
corporate America saw it to be profitable, then they wanted to control it and they started making some decisions that I didn't agree with that weren't right for the culture, that were extorting the culture, that was not something that we set out to do.
Yeah.
So, it was a combination of things. And not just that, but there was all kinds of other stuff going on. Like I didn't get into this business to, you know, babysit pop stars, or do all of that kind of stuff. But some of that came with it, I mean, and then I start realizing, okay, I'm the radio guy, I'm the source of these people's money. Like, they don't give a fuck about me. It's all about what I can do for them. None of these people are my friends. And, all of that stuff kind of played into it. You know what I mean? And, I think sometimes and if I'm honest about it, I think sometimes I've used Granny's fall as an excuse,
Hmm.
maybe, in my darkest things, but at the same time, no. You know what I mean? Like, that's part is genuine, but it's also genuine that I was fed up with being everybody's errand boy. You know what I mean? Like, look at some of the brands that I helped to create, that we created as a
Yeah.
team. You know what I mean? And it was like, hey, fuck you. We did it all ourselves. Okay, fuck you. Watch me walk out and watch
Yeah.
where it goes with me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and over time, yeah, it did okay for a minute, but how many people have had the same type of success with us there and with us not there?
Well, and that
Yeah.
it all went back also to the artist relationships and the trust people had for you that you created within those walls for everybody, and just within the wall, just within the streets too.
You know,
The
it,
energy.
Yeah.
Corrupt said something to me one time that I'll never forget. When
I
I
love how you mention people's names just like in passing, like, oh, so and so, so corrupt, and all these famous people that are just in and out of your lives. And the way you do it so humbly and so beautifully is just, I love
Well,
that. It's one of the things I love.
but it's just like knowing the guy at the corner store
Sure.
to me. You
Sure.
know what I'm saying? Like,
That's what's beautiful
yeah,
about you.
Corrupt is an icon and a
Yeah.
legend, but
Yeah.
he's also fucking corrupt. You
Yeah,
know what I
we've
mean?
also
But
all had struggles together.
yeah,
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
who
I
we
love
helped
it.
raise his little brother,
Yeah.
Roscoe. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
known him since he was 16. But what he said to me that really hurt one day is he said, "You left all your soldiers on the field to die."
Hmm.
And I was like, "You sure about that? Because I sure as hell feel it's the other way around." You know what I mean? Like, their perception and my perception of what was going on is like, yo, I helped make hip hop the #1 format in the world. I put you guys on tour. I broke your little brother's record. I did, what more could I have possibly fucking done for you? And
Hmm.
when these people came after me and all this shit that they're talking about me and I'm blacklisted and all this, I don't see y'all speaking up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like, that was part of that fuel too. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Of being like, you know what I mean? Because to me, that felt like that's your perception of it. You know what I mean? That's a selfish perception of it. Try to see it from my point of view, or at least ask.
At least ask.
You know what I
think
mean?
that's
Tell
the
me I
thing.
left
At
my
least ask.
soldiers on the field to die. What are you talking about? You freaking
Well, I think that was also a guilt trip too, because we wanted you, and in I want everybody to be clear. He's not at all talking mess about Corrupt, because Corrupt's
no, I
like,
love
yeah,
Corrupt.
that's like one of our brothers. But it's
But
like,
it's just like,
with me, I had a little bit of that. I'll be straight up. I had a little bit of that anger. It's like, because I was always fighting those hallways. I'm like, oh, okay, this motherfucker's just gonna bounce on us, and like, and here, like, okay, so who's in these hallways that's gonna really defend me, or that's gonna understand what I'm doing, or
but the thing is to me, and not to be whatever, but I was never obligated to play that position.
no.
You know,
Right.
I did that out of the kindness of my heart. I did that out of love
Well,
for
and you
what
did
we
that
did.
out of passion.
Yeah, but
For what we did. And now we're right back here doing that same shit, talking about how the
Right.
hell did we end up in this situation when you and I
but it
first.
became expected
It became expected. And I
You know what
think
I'm
that,
saying?
yes. And I
and
think
not
that-
reciprocated.
and not reciprocated, but I think the missing, go ahead.
That part.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh,
So
you
that
look like you
part.
had a yeah.
How do we change that?
How do we change that? But I think for you, you don't want to be a commodity. For you, the human part of it and the connection part of it and the
Yes.
authenticity part of it and the truth of who you are is what matters to you more
Yes.
than how much money am I making for you? What am I doing for you? What can you do for me? You're not transactional.
Well, and
so
this
when-
business became transactional.
That's what I was just going to say. And when it became transactional for you, it no longer fit with your truth because it's not who you are.
Totally.
And when people expect transactions,
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah.
I like her.
Yeah.
I mean,
She know what she tell you. Got
Yeah,
like a
be
PhD
around.
in this shit,
Yeah.
player hating degree.
Player hating
No.
degree in therapy. She
No,
got to
just-
dissect you.
No, I'll do that later. But that's the truth,
Send me
right?
the bill.
Once I'll say,
Did you hear she'll do that later?
What?
Yeah.
Is this date 2 or 1?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because you know she don't start from the last
I'm getting
episode and
warm
date
in
one.
here.
I don't
So
put out
hot
on the
in
first
here.
date. For the record, I don't put out on the first date or even the second.
Dude, don't listen to her. She's lying now. If I bet her $50,
I've heard
she'll
some of
put
y'all
out-
conversations.
Yeah,
like,
she will put out. She's holding on to her old narrative, but don't listen.
stop at 7-Eleven,
Yeah.
have a Slurpee. Anyway,
Yeah,
go
let's
ahead.
go.
I forgot all the nice things. I
This
was
just
gonna say
went
about
south
keto.
real
It
quick.
does.
Yeah.
This one always takes it back
I
there.
didn't say nothing.
Always, you did.
I don't
Oh,
eat it
you
on the
did.
first date. I'm just going to say that right
But do
now.
you eat it?
But do you? Yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
But not on the first date. The third?
So yeah, how long does it take?
Like,
Like,
How long does it take?
does she have to be your
dates?
girlfriend
I mean, it
to eat
depends
it,
on,
or
it depends.
would you casually eat it?
What, I'd casually eat it? What's
Yeah.
a little head between friends? What-
Yeah. Okay.
But what if other people are giving her head? That's the other
I'll
conversation.
watch.
we had.
Fuck it. Maybe film. Look, she's like,
Yeah, what do you?
when you can make
What
her
do you
blood.
No,
from
because your question to me the other day was if other people are doing it at this. Do you care?
No,
if
my
you're-
question
Wait,
to
are we
you,
like, what is this, Eyes Wide Shut or
my
something?
question to her was because she in dating she doesn't believe in like casual sex with like multiple partners. And when I say
Correct.
multiple, even with like two, let's say like if she's got two little, so she thinks she gonna boost somebody up for a second and she gonna meet somebody, they gonna start banging, right? And even if it's not her man
Hypothetically.
or they're not married, she won't have sex with somebody if they're having sex with somebody else.
with other people.
I don't know
Correct.
how I feel about this because I've never dated. I mean,
I
this is
honestly just think that societal bullshit is societal bullshit. And if you actually have a connection with someone, you should be free to do whatever the fuck you want.
Great.
so
That
my
works for you.
so my
Look,
question.
they're like, honey,
So-
let's get out of here.
yeah.
This is going south real
So my
quick.
question to her, and has always been to her, is
I don't want you hearing this,
giving
sweetheart.
head the same thing as
Having sex.
having sex? She doesn't count it as having sex. She doesn't count it as a body count. Giving head. Would you do oral? Would you?
You're my new best friend.
So do you think oral doesn't count as a partner? Do you think it's like?
Look, I don't think any of it counts. I think if you are attracted to somebody, then you should feel free to do whatever the fuck you want. Eat, drink, dance, whatever. The society judging other people is what the fuck is wrong with our society.
Sure.
I don't
And listen,
judge.
let's be
I
clear. There's
don't-
no judgment here. We're
No, no,
just
what
clear
I'm
about
saying-
what works for us.
I'm
But I
saying-
don't,
without
you don't
judgment.
totally know what works for you yet. I know you and I can't like. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to casual like have
I
a
know what works
dude
for me.
and then know there's other.
But you're
bitches.
more worried just knowing you as your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're
know
more
better than
worried of the
anybody.
perception of others and how people perceive you in some of your decision making process, from my
Mhm.
opinion.
Disagree. I think you like to be like, I'm cool. I can date somebody who's dating other people. We try to be tough and all of this shit. It's bullshit. Because when we like somebody or we care about somebody or we're into somebody and we're investing our time and our energy, we don't want to know that that person is then also doing that with other people. I'm speaking for myself, but I know I'm also speaking for you.
But I do think that it's the what do you say and
Both and.
both and because I think
But see,
he's
that,
right that I
to me,
worry
that's an
way
ego
too
and
much about
control issue.
For me, it's not. For me personally, it's not.
I'm just saying
you
the
don't
perception, my perception
Sure.
of it
Sure.
is that's still if I'm doing it, then it's exerting power over something.
I'm not. I mean, I understand that
I-
perception. For me, this is what works for me. And I
Yeah.
think out of all the shit that I've been through in my
Well,
life,
you're
I'm
also
at
a
the
little
point
different.
now. This is what works for me, and I'm clear on that. I've got
Yeah.
zero judgment. If it doesn't work for you, cool. Then it doesn't work for us. Whatever works for
So
you.
you're opposed to open relationship.
I'm for me
Yeah.
personally. I'm not. I'm opposed to it for myself.
Mm.
I'm not opposed to it for anybody else, but I'm
So,
opposed to it for myself.
No threesomes if we ever date.
No.
Okay,
Listen.
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No
Well,
threesomes.
No, I'm just
I'm willing to
kidding.
try most things once or twice.
I'm
However.
just kidding.
Yeah,
Note to
come
self.
on, dude.
Zip your fucking mouth right now. Zip your fucking mouth right
Okay,
now.
I'll zip
Loads camera.
Oh,
Immediately.
Pause. Rewind.
Fucking edit
Pause.
this shit right
Rewind.
now.
I didn't say nothing.
I know. Don't.
I'm not.
I lost myself at a
not
diddy
gonna say
party. No.
I normally let this one go, and I'm fucking reeling you in right now. Not a fucking
my
word.
God.
Why does it always end up here on your guys' podcast?
I don't know,
Word.
Dame.
What, is
Yeah,
this like
let's-
the
okay,
Dr.
but let's
Ruth
talk
show? Like,
a
what are
little
we
bit.
doing
It is
here?
a little, well, because
Okay.
we're at that point. It's like
It is.
I
what it
want
Is this
to
plus
rear.
talk or is
I
this the
want
show-up
great
show?
sex. It's both.
Yes, we want
It's
great
this
sex.
and that.
It's all of it.
I want
It's all
to
of
be
it.
loved. It's all of it. Like we
all of
are
it.
48.
No,
trying
you
to
want to be
figure out, like-
railed. You just haven't said it yet.
Oh, she said it. What do you mean
No,
hasn't
but,
said it?
uh,
She does, but she also wants to be loved and respected.
I've heard some of the
Conversations.
Yeah.
we've had.
Yeah, man hands,
yeah,
right?
you know,
Man,
man.
We all know who man hands is in this room.
We'll just leave it at that.
Man hands.
So how about the weather?
Okay,
Anything about
really?
music you want to
No,
talk
I
about?
want to, because everybody's talked about the same things with you on the, and we're going to
Yes.
talk about music. I want to talk about different things because
Go for
it's
it.
like right away when everybody sees mine and your connection, and they're like, "Oh my God, you
They're
guys,
fucking.
yeah, you guys love each other.
No, you guys are going to get married.
yeah,
That's the whole thing.
It's a whole thing with everybody. Now you've always said something. I love you,
But every time I've ever had a friendship with a female, that's the first thing that everybody says.
Mm.
I mean, but that's that society shit. They can't think. Everybody has to be able to put something in a
in
box.
a box.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't fit in
It's
that box,
okay.
we'll create
That's
it.
okay.
Yeah.
So now I can accept that. It's just like, in bullying or anything like that. It's to bring you down to what they think of themselves
Yeah.
at the
Right.
end of the day.
Right.
They have to be able to put you in something to be able to accept you.
Yeah.
And that's why I've always had a problem in this business, because you cannot put me in a fucking box. I think outside of that.
Okay, so you're not getting out of this question going in your
shit. I was trying.
Right.
Yeah.
I know
Going
we're
in
watching you
circles,
try.
You're not
We're
getting
letting
out
you
of this
try.
question. So
Okay, what's the
one
question?
thing you always would say, like when somebody had said, "Oh no, anyways, I'd never do that because whenever I fuck somebody, it fucks up the relationship, and I fuck it up, and I always fuck it up." What
That's
is
me
that-
falling on
how-
the sword.
on what's no? I want.
It's just
want you
I
to
value
explain
our
it.
friendship too much.
No,
I
I'm
would
not
never
just
cross
talking
that.
about me in general. I'm talking about relationship in general and the fact that you kind of run from letting yourself get close enough to anybody like that.
Because I'm married to the game, boo.
But
Like
do you-
I am married to music. That is what I don't have personal relationships like that.
Hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? There's very few friendships that I value enough to spend this much time with, because my life and my goal has always been centered around duty, whether it's duty of grandma at the time or the duty of caregiving to grandma or the duty of this music thing. It's always been the duality of that. You know what I'm saying? And yes, the personal relationships are important to me, but the time that it would take and the involvement that it would take and the duty it would take to that relationship would take away from what this world has put me here for.
I just want to.
I disagree.
Love the wait.
I disagree.
I want to. I want to see
I
you
understand,
loved.
but that's what
I've
you want
never
from
se-
me.
I know,
But
I
that's
just,
what
and
you want from me.
I want to see you loved.
I understand.
Not
He
by
is
me,
loved.
'cause
Look,
I'm
I
your
had the
sister.
most
No, he knows
wonderful,
what I
romantic
mean.
unconditional love on the
Yeah.
planet.
Yeah.
My grandma gave me something that no one will ever be able to touch. Okay, now that's outside of the sexual realm. Okay, the other shit and passion and all that kind of stuff, well, that can be done on a Friday night. Me to the game. And what my passion is for what I do. I put that on hold for 20 fucking years to take care of what was the most important to me, which was my grandma,
Yeah.
which is my family relationship, which is that. Now I'm back to work. I don't give a fuck about some pussy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Wow.
and
It's
I
another t-shirt.
understand the relationship. I understand that part of it, but that's fine.
Maybe it's because you're loved by so many so hard. All
Well,
around
and
you.
but I am loved. I feel the love. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's not relative to me. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't understand why. I don't know what it is. The little Martian in my head. I don't know what it is, but I know the work that I have to do, and I know how long I have to do it. So I do it, and I don't know how else the fuck to put it. So I
think it's-
fall on the sword.
I think you put it beautifully, but I also will offer, and I also
What are
will-
you offering, baby?
Well, I mean, it depends. What date are we
and what are
on?
you doing after the?
Yeah.
It depends.
The
Are you
guy
seeing
that
other
doesn't
women?
talk about pussy wants to know.
Here, kitty, kitty. No. I'm just.
How many other dates
Don't
do you
let
have
him shut
scheduled
you
this
down.
week?
He's doing
He's
this
not
Look,
going to
she's
shut me
blushing.
down.
I love
I'm
it.
not blushing. I'm
Yes,
not
you
blushing.
have.
I
Every
love
time you
making him
blush.
blush.
And that's
I'm
what
not-
he does.
I'm
That's
not
his
blushing.
power with people, and I'm not going to let him do this
Okay.
on our show.
A, I'm not blushing. It takes a
Okay,
lot more
cool.
than that to make
Okay,
me
so
blush.
put
But
your-
B,
put it on him. Put it on
I'm
him.
coming.
Okay.
I'm fucking here.
Are
I'm
you?
not going.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can and I will.
Right at this moment?
However, no, definitely not
Right.
at this moment. However, for you to say that, right? I also think that that serves as a little bit of protection for you. Keeps you
Probably.
protected and it keeps you insulated and it keeps you safe because you don't have to
Probably.
be vulnerable. You don't have to show up and you don't have to
I
allow
was
somebody.
abandoned child. I mean, it's
100%.
not far fetched to think that that's a
100%.
self-defense.
And so what I'm going to offer you is that it doesn't have to be either or. It could be both and
It
for
could.
you. When
But
and
that
if you
hasn't knocked
decide
on my
it's
door
ready,
yet.
okay, great. She's
If it
she's out
does-
there. She exists, and now we're putting it out into the universe.
And if
that's
it
something
happens,
that
it
you're open
happens.
to.
But right now, my duty is most important.
I get that, but it
When
can
they
be
knock
both
on the
and.
cock, I'm going to be there to judge and block.
He'll open the door.
Spit or swallow, I will follow.
Okay, welcome to it. All right, so let's talk about let's change gears a little. That was fun. I really wanted to hit
go
your.
ahead.
I
I love
really
you.
wanted to hit your love life.
Like
But
I've always
yeah.
said, I don't. I'm an open book. The faults or the.
Yeah.
I'm happy to discuss. That's why, I've never actually done a full therapy run, you know what I mean, where it would be beneficial, but I would love to dig into that sometime. And, because I don't understand how my brain works,
Yeah.
but I just know that I have these set guidelines and parameters of some, as crazy as it sounds, some sort of mission that I just am
It's not crazy.
focused on.
It doesn't sound crazy. It sounds like, listen, sometimes with things that happen in our lives, right, we become driven by our minds or we become driven by our hearts. And some people exist in their heart and some people exist in their mind. And sometimes it's not safe to live from here. So we have to live from here. And when we live from our minds and we live from this is what needs to be done and these are my parameters and I have all these things set up that I need to do, it keeps us safe from this because this is unpredictable. We can't plan this. This
Well,
just happens.
If I had to explain my mind in a nutshell, it's like I get downloads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
it's just like, here's the coordinates, here's the play, go run it. And sometimes it lasts 20 years, sometimes it lasts 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really weird.
Well, speaking of those,
And that part just hasn't happened yet.
speaking of those
Love it.
downloads,
You have the day off, go and fall in love for 10 years.
Well, this
Okay.
has to get activated.
but it doesn't have to be go ahead and fall in love for 10 years. Like we can do both. Like
this one
I
wants you
wanna-
to just be in the fucking streets for a minute and do your thing.
Yeah, I want us to find
Yeah.
both for
Yeah,
for
both
each
and.
other. Like,
Agreed.
yeah.
I hope. I mean, but
Yeah.
it just
Do you hope?
I mean, I hope for a lot of things. You know
no,
what I'm saying?
that's not what I
Like,
asked you. Do you hope for love?
I stay in the moment. I don't hope for. I really let me think about it because I
Okay.
really want to be honest with myself when I say this. I've never thought about it.
So if you had to think about it now,
You would be forcing me to think about it.
then think about it.
Indifference.
Okay.
Fair.
All right. So you ain't gonna be loved, but you definitely gonna recreate.
But I
the
am
music
loved.
industry.
But he is loved.
Yeah,
He's
but he
so
is
I'm
loved. But
fucking
you
And
so
are
she's
loved.
coming.
loved.
She's coming. She's on
Yo,
her way.
let me
Recreating it-
say this. I want to be absolutely clear. I have the best friends in the world.
Yeah.
I am so fucking loved.
I
It's
know.
fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I
You
have
are
the
so
most
loved.
best unconditional love around me that
Yeah.
you could fucking
Create.
possibly imagine.
Ditto,
Yeah.
dude.
And I mean, that part is humbling and I will tear up talking about it because I love my friends so much.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know when it comes to that other shit.
All right. Well, let's talk about the shit that you do know.
Okay.
You've thrown me into some situations that like I thought I didn't, because you know me, you guys both know me, where I'm very non-conflict. It's like I like everybody happy. I like everybody at peace. And
Sometimes you got to break some shit.
yeah. And you do that to me, and you've done that for me, and with certain people that you've wanted to put in the same room that I thought it couldn't be done, or and I'll be straight on it, and I'm going to go straight with it. And I'm going to shoot straight. Originally when we got into the whole music thing and got obsessed with all of everything going on in the new music order, you had a great relationship with OTR and with Lefty, and you were able to get in really close with that camp and be a big part of what they were doing. I got to go see what Ocho and Rowdy and Big Business and everybody were doing. And we identified how special they were and wanted them all so badly to be in the Sandlot together because we know the power of that. Well, you weren't afraid to make moves to put OTR and to put Ocho, in the same room and to see those young execs shine so well together. I was scared to do it. I was scared to shake things up.
Let me say something about Soulless and Lefty. First off, when I very first came back, um, I I'm trying to even think how I met Soulless, but he was one of the very first people that I met or encountered. And being blacklisted at the time, or the rumors that were, I got coked up and beat up Jimmy Steele, like, something like that. He was offered a deal basically, and was told that if he was friends with me or was going to do business with me, that he could not get that deal, and it was a reputable company.
Hmm.
So I saw loyalty out of them immediately. Do you know what I'm saying? And in our conversations, after doing this for 40 years, you just kind of pick up the type of people it is.
Yeah.
And within one action or whatever it was of dealing with Soulless, the next thing you see is Lefty Gunplay, who was arguably or is arguably one of the hottest rappers in the movement,
Mhm.
and young, and talking about me on Bootleg Kev, saying, I don't give a fuck what they say about him. He did some real shit. I'm sticking by him. And for an artist to stand up for me when all of that was telling them not to, how the fuck am I not going to back them up?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So he's saying we have to go.
Okay. Okay.
But
Hi, Bams.
but I'm all about loyalty and duty. So, when I met Ocho, when I met Big Business, I saw what they were about too. Like I said, after
Yeah.
40, and I said, this has to be miscommunication.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So
gotta
I
fix
knew that if we could find the common ground, we could
Yeah.
draw it out of that.
Yeah, and now it's beautiful to see. And just for years, like, I hear everybody, I want this rapper on my record, I want that rapper on my record. Well, now those rappers are putting our Mexican artists on,
And
which
working together.
yeah, and working together.
Hmm.
So
But that's what I've always done.
Yeah.
You have to remember every powerhouse, everything. There's Bloods over here, there's Crips over here, and there's Essays over there. So I would make friends with all of the hood bosses from all the sets and be like, oh, you have a problem with him? Not tonight.
yeah,
And
That's
everybody
right.
would come together at those powerhouses. It was a grandma's potluck, and that's just
Yeah.
how it would work.
and that's how we're going to continue to do it.
That's right.
And
And we will continue this talk down the
Yes,
line.
we
Yeah,
will.
and carve it
TBD.
out.
Dot.
right now we're going to go support the homies for the GERD Awards.
Yes.
And hop
Some of
on the
us are gonna
ship.
go.
Yeah, so we're
on
gonna
the
hop
ship.
on the ship, and
Uh-huh.
so it's gonna be fun. And
And I want
We're
to
gonna
thank
keep
you
you
guys. I
posted.
appreciate being here, and I don't mean to cut it short, but I got to get out of
let's
here.
go.
I
Let's
know,
go on the
fancy
ship, baby.
pants.
You know how we do. It's a show
I
up
love you
show.
guys.
Show up
Thank
show.
you.
I love you more.
Love you.
Get ready to show up with Khoolaid and Sarah. It's the show up show, baby.